Welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there. Today we're pulling out the key stuff from the AI Daily News Digest, May 8th, 2025.
Yeah, cutting through the noise to get you what matter.
Exactly. Distilling it all down.
Okay, so what have we got lined up? We'll be looking at something called the absolute zero reasoner, or AZR.
Uh-huh.
Then check out where U.S. businesses are actually spending their AI subscription money.
Right. Some interesting data there.
We'll also touch on the kind of competition between Cerebras and Grok in the hardware space.
Yep. A hosting duel.
And finally, a look ahead at the 2025 AI Engineer World's Fair.
Sounds good. Let's jump in.
Okay, first up, absolute zero reasoner. AZR, this popped up in some online discussions. AZR Local Llama.
Yeah, exactly. So AZR, specifically a version called Absolute Zero Reasoner Llama 3.18b at step 132. Quite a mouthful.
Ha, yeah.
It showed this, well, pretty surprising ability to handle Python tasks that were deliberately messed with. Obfuscated.
Okay, so not just standard coding tests. These were designed to be hard.
Really hard. Yeah, designed to trip up both people and, other ML models.
And AZR managed them.
It did, which suggests, it hints at a real capability for, let's call it practical reasoning in tough spots, or maybe just very advanced code comprehension.
Like solving a puzzle that's intentionally misleading.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So the question this raises for you, listening, is, are we seeing real reasoning emerging, or is it just pattern matching getting incredibly sophisticated?
And the digest mentioned a paper, right? Absolute zero, reinforced self-play reasoning with zero data.
Right. And that ties into this bigger debate. Can these models actually generate truly diverse new problems and solve them? Or are they always fundamentally tied to their pre-training data?
The absolute zero name kind of suggests they can figure things out without much prior specific data for the task.
That's the implication, yeah. Reasoning from first principles almost.
But there was also skepticism, like maybe AZR is just recognizing bits and pieces from its training data, even in these weird problems.
That's the counter-argument, and it's a really important one. Is it genuine, flexible reasoning, or just, super advanced pattern recognition, finding familiar shapes in the noise? We don't quite know yet.
Okay, interesting stuff on AZR. Let's pivot to the money side. U.S. business spending on AI subscriptions. This came from ramp.com data.
Yeah, data from their commercial card usage gives a specific snapshot. And OpenAI looks pretty dominant in this snapshot.
Dominant.
They have about a 32.4% adoption rate among the businesses using Ramp for AI subs.
Okay, about a third. But the spending figure was the kicker, wasn't it?
Exactly. That 32.4% adoption translates to, wait for it, 80% of the total card spend on AI subscriptions in this data set.
Wow, 80%. So companies using Ramp are not only adopting OpenAI, but spending big on it compared to others.
It really highlights their strong position, at least within this user base. It's just businesses, value whatever OpenAI offers quite highly, perhaps perceive reliability or capability.
And Ramp expects overall AI adoption to keep climbing.
Yeah, they project it'll hit about 40.1% among their users by mid-2025, so growth is still happening.
What about the others? Anthropic, Google, xAI?
Well, Anthropic is next, but way behind in spending share here, around 8%. The others mentioned, xAI, Google, DeepSeek, were all under 1% of the spend in this particular data set.
And we need that big caveat again. This is only businesses using Ramp cards.
Absolutely crucial. It's a specific slice, not the whole pie of U.S. business AI spending. It might skew towards certain types of companies, for example.
Right. And there was that specific point about Google's share being just 0.1% adoption. That felt weirdly low.
It did seem low, yeah. Especially since Google Workspace for Business has AI baked in now.
So the thinking is, maybe that cost is bundled, not showing up as a separate AI subscription on the card.
That's likely it. If you're getting AI features as part of your existing Google Workspace plan, Ramp's data might not capture it in the same way it captures a distinct OpenAI or Anthropic subscription. Makes sense.
Okay, which kind of leads us nicely into the buzz around Gemini 2.5 Pro, because despite that low reported share in the Ramp data, Google's latest model seems to be making waves performance-wise.
That's the interesting contrast, right? Low direct subscription spend in that data set, but Gemini 2.5 Pro itself is showing significant leaps. It actually hit the #1 spot on the web dev arena leaderboard.
So strong on coding tasks, web development stuff.
Apparently so. And beyond benchmarks, people are reporting real improvements, particularly in creative writing.
How so?
Just sounding more natural, less repetitive, better at following complex instructions is the feedback.
Huh. And there was that funny detail about the internal version name.
Oh yeah, Gemini 2.5 Pro preview, Z5064 releases to the zone. Matt's fixes approved.
Chuckles. Gives you a little peek behind the curtain, doesn't it? Lots of last-minute tweaks and approvals.
Definitely suggests a fair bit of internal back and forth before they pushed it out.
And the rollout itself was kind of gradual.
Seems like it. It popped up first on Vertex AI, their enterprise platform, and then later showed up in AI Studio. So yeah, a staggered release.
Okay, but there was also some, maybe, criticism about the demo they used. Something about fractals.
Yeah, some folks pointed out that Google showcased Gemini 2.5 Pro generating a fractal, but the algorithm used is, well, pretty old and relatively easy to implement.
So maybe not the best way to show off a cutting-edge model.
That was the feeling for some, like it didn't really push the model's advanced capabilities.
But despite that, users are generally positive, saying it holds its own against GPT models now.
That seems to be the consensus from early user reports, yeah. Despite the maybe underwhelming demo choice, in actual practical use, people are finding it performs really well, sometimes even better than comparable GPT models for certain tasks.
Okay, interesting dynamic with Google. Now let's switch to hardware. This duel between Cerebras and Grok for hosting models. What's the story here?
Yeah, this is heating up, especially in places like the OpenRouter community and the Alex Atala Discord. OpenRouter just announced Cerebras is now a provider on their platform.
Okay, so they're joining Grok as an option for running models. What does Cerebras bring? Their tech sounds different.
It's very different. They build these massive single chips. We're talking 4 trillion transistors on one piece of silicon.
Wow.
And crucially, 40 gigabytes of very fast memory right there on the chip.
And that translates to speed, tokens per second.
That's the idea.
Right.
The digest mentioned some impressive numbers like over 3,000 tokens per second for Llama 4 Scout.
3,000, that's fast.
Very fast. And even for a bigger model like Llama 3.370B Instruct, they're reportedly getting over 1,800 TPS.
Okay, so they're positioning themselves as a high-speed option, directly competing with Grok, who are also known for speed.
Exactly. And the discussion is really around how they compare for hosting the really big models like, say, DeepSeek V3.1R1.
Right. And the digest mentioned a potential issue for Grok there, something about the number of cards needed.
Yeah, there was a user observation that Grok might need something like 2,700 of their cards just to fit the weight of that R1 model.
2,700, just for one model instance.
That was the number floating around. It highlights the challenge of fitting these enormous models onto Grok's current hardware architecture.
Whereas Cerebras, with its huge single-chip and on-chip memory, the suggestion is they could handle it better. Maybe even run something like Qwen 235B.
That's the speculation, yeah. Their architecture might be better suited for models with massive parameter counts because so much memory is right there on the chip.
So people are really looking for someone who can run these big, long context models like DeepSeek V3.1R1 fast.
Definitely seems like it. There's a clear demand for speed, especially with these newer, more capable models that can handle huge amounts of text. A fast provider could fill a real gap.
The digest also noted that people are getting good speeds, like 300 tokens per second, on regular H100s using clever tricks like speculative decoding.
Right, software optimization helps a lot.
But for the absolute top-tier speed on the biggest models, this hardware difference between Cerebras and Grok seems pretty key.
It really looks like the underlying hardware architecture is becoming a major factor in this high-performance hosting race.
Okay, fascinating stuff on the hardware front. Let's wrap up with the 2025 AI Engineer World's Fair. June, San Francisco. Sounds like it's bigger this year.
Yeah, apparently twice as big as last year. Loads of expo booths, talks, workshops. 18 tracks, they said.
18. Wow. And for people attending who want to get up to speed quickly, there are these helper files, lms.txt.
Yeah, lms.txt or lms.txt or lms.txt or lms.txt. So it's like they're curated summaries or reading lists to quickly grasp the key topics in AI engineering right now, like a cheat sheet for the conference themes.
Makes sense. And the tracks themselves are evolving, like array isn't just RAG anymore.
Exactly. Retrieval augmented generation. It's become so important and diverse that they've broken it down. There's a track specifically on retrieval plus search, including LLMs using web search. Another on GraphReg featuring Neo4j. And even one on recommendation systems, Rexis, hosted by Eugene Yan. It shows how specialized things are getting.
And agents, too. That's become more focused.
Yeah, reflecting the whole agentic trend. The track's now looking specifically at things like SWE agents for software engineering, agent reliability, which is a huge issue, and reasoning plus RL, reinforcement learning.
Multimodality, dealing with images, voice, etc., also got split.
Yep, into voice AI, looking at real-time voice APIs and stuff. And generative media, which is all about image and video generation. Again, specialization.
Good to see core tracks like infrastructure security and evals getting dedicated focus, too.
Absolutely essential as the field matures. You need solid foundations.
Then there were these brand new directions tracks. MCP was mentioned as being really popular.
Yeah, most oversubscribed. MCP likely means Model Context Protocol, suggesting a big interest in standardizing how AI components talk to each other. Interoperability, basically.
Interesting. And tiny teams building high AR companies. What's that about?
That sounds fascinating. Highlights how small teams, maybe just a few people, can leverage AI to build businesses with significant annual recurring revenue. Shows the scaling power of AI.
There are also tracks for product managers working with AI engineers and design engineering.
Right. Recognizing that PMs need specific skills in this space, and the designers working with AI are becoming more technical design engineering. It reflects how AI is changing job roles.
And finally, robotics and autonomy.
Yeah, covering embodied AI, robots that interact with the physical world. With input expected from places like Waymo, Tesla, Google, should be pretty cutting edge.
Plus, as always, the invaluable hallway track.
Never underestimate the hallway track, the random conversations, the networking, often the best part of a conference.
And for listeners interested in going, the digest mentioned a discount.
That's right. AI news readers can apparently get a discount using the code AINEWWS before the end of Friday. Check the digest for the link and details.
Sounds like a must-attend if you're deep in the AI engineering space.
Definitely seems tailored for the kind of technically minded folks who follow this sort of news closely.
So, to wrap up our deep dive today, May 8th, 2025, we looked at the Absolute Zero Reasoner and its intriguing capabilities.
The reasoning versus pattern matching question.
We saw the snapshot of U.S. business AI spending from ramp with OpenAI's big lead in spend and the nuances around Google's numbers and Gemini 2.5 Pro's performance.
Right, the market dynamics are complex.
We explored the hardware duel between Cerebras and Grok for high-speed model hosting.
Yeah, the battle of the architectures for those huge models.
And we got a preview of the very extensive 2025 AI Engineer World's Fair.
Showing just how broad and specialized the field is becoming.
It really underscores how quickly everything is moving: models, hardware, the market, the community events.
It's relentless, really. Constant innovation and discussion across the board.
So, thinking about all this rapid change we've just discussed, here's something for you, the listener, to mull over. With AI engineering becoming so specialized, as we saw with the conference tracks, where do you think individuals trying to learn and grow in this field should focus their efforts right now? Is it better to go deep in one area or try to maintain a broader understanding?
That's a great question. Specialization versus breadth. It's a tough call in such a fast-moving field. Definitely something to consider.
Indeed. Well, that's all for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I hope this gave you some useful insights into what's happening right now in AI.